Thank you. Okay, here we go. Welcome to the San Ramon Valley Democratic Club. My name is Brody Hilp. I serve as president, and I'm here with Vice President Rick Adler. Serving as our Zoom administrator is our member Chris Taddeo. Thank you for joining us. Tonight we have speakers two amazing elected officials. First, our Assemblymember Rebecca Bauer-Kahan, and second, Sabina Zafar, a San Ramon City Council member who is a candidate for mayor. Both are endorsed by our Democratic Party of Contra Costa County and by our San Ramon Valley Democratic Club. Please become a member of our club. You can look in chat to see how you can become a member. Why become a member? Our membership dues are low, but our club has been able to make $3,500 in contributions to our endorsed candidates. Some of our candidates got $1,000 each. So your dues are very important. So please join our club. And speaking of candidates, I hope you have voted or will vote for our club's endorsed candidates besides Rebecca Bauer-Kahan for Assembly and Sabina Zafar for San Ramon Mayor. Our endorsed candidates include, and this is real important because you may not be familiar with the Contra Costa County Board of Education, Area 4, Anaite Latona. Anaite is A-N-A-I-T-E, Latona. She's running for Contra Costa County Board of Education, Area 4. That's our area in Danville and San Ramon. Also, Michelle Peterson for San Ramon Valley Unified School District Board, District 1. Sarah Lashenlow for San Ramon City Council, District 2. Marisol Rubio, San Ramon Council, District 4. So please become active in the campaigns of these candidates. Look in chat for their websites and how to become involved. There are canvassing opportunities to walk door to door, along with phone banking and texting opportunities. For the state level, vote for all our Democratic candidates. Several of the candidates have spoken at our club over the years, including Malia Cohen, who's running for controller, Fiona Ma for treasurer, and Ellen Kunalakis for lieutenant governor. But tonight, we are honored to have our Assembly member, Rebecca Bauer-Kahan, speak. She's had an active legislative session, having written many bills signed by the governor, and we will hear about her work tonight. And we're so lucky to have Rebecca as our Assembly member. She's intelligent, astute, hardworking. She has a great welcoming personality and a sense of humor. I could go on and on. Plus, she has an amazing depth of knowledge on all the issues and is able to convey all this information while being interesting and engaging. And I didn't quite realize this until I heard her speak at a debate against her Republican opponent, Joe Rube. She had to answer important questions about like how to deal with plastic pollution and how to deal with our water crisis. And she was quite knowledgeable. Her opponent, though, was pitiful. When asked about what to do about plastic pollution, Joe Rube said, "I'm just a real estate appraiser. I don't know about those things." And when asked about transportation issues, he turned to Rebecca and asked her, "What's the name of that train?" And Rebecca politely responded, "Valley Link." Yes, Joe Rube is pitiful, but we're so lucky and we can be very proud to have such an outstanding Assembly member. Before being elected, Rebecca was an attorney who specialized in ensuring major corporations complied with environmental laws and regulations. She also worked with major tech companies on intellectual property cases. She taught appellate law and legal research at Santa Clara University and Golden Gate University. Thank you, Rebecca. We are honored to have you speak.
Thanks, Brody. Thank you for having me, guys. It's good to be with you all. Okay, so before I start, I wore my Yes on Prop 1 hat. Make sure everybody knew the answer to Prop 1. But it's really, really important. I started my day at a press conference in Oakland with Mayor Schaaf and the Senate President Pro Tem Tony Atkins talking about the importance of Prop 1. So wanted to not miss the opportunity to remind all of you that abortion and contraception are on the ballot, and you have the opportunity to enshrine them in our Constitution this election cycle, which is really important. And there is, I know all of you are obviously huge supporters of reproductive rights, but there is an education gap. Most people actually do not know that abortion and contraception are on the ballot. So just wanted to make sure you guys were all aware, and make sure to tell your friends, because it really is a critical part of what we're trying to achieve through the election in November. And I was actually out knocking doors in San Ramon Valley this weekend with Michelle Peterson, and it was wonderful. But I never missed an opportunity when I found a friendly face to talk about Prop 1 as well. So I hope you'll do the same. So with that, it's really good to be with all of you, and just give you an update on what's been happening in the Capitol since I was last with you. And it's been a bit of some time. I know that we were scheduled to be together, and then I got stuck in session one night. So my staffer had to fill in for me, which I apologize for, but my job is important. I want to be there representing each and every one of you. So it has to come first, but I'm happy to be with you tonight while we're in interim, and I knew I wouldn't get interrupted, although we may have a child walk in. So there is always that. But as Brody mentioned, my office was able to move quite the legislative package this year, and I'm incredibly, incredibly proud of the work we did. I also changed jobs a little bit this year. I went from the Assistant Speaker Pro Tem that many have heard me talk about, where I presided over the Assembly, to becoming the chair of the Water, Parks, and Wildlife Committee, where I oversee California's water, all of our state parks and local parks. We actually fund a lot of our local parks and regional parks as well. And we can legislate in that space. And then wildlife. So all animal bills come before my committee. So it's a really, really important committee as it relates to drought, to protection of our biodiversity and wildlife, and ensuring access to open space and parks. So that's been really fun this year, taking on the mantle of that work. Now, my mother always says to me, I don't know why anyone would want to be in charge of water in California. It's a lot of pressure, but it's also really, really important. As many of you know, drought is top of mind for Californians. It is one of the greatest threats we have in the face of climate change, and California has to get our act together to make sure that we are doing what we can to store and access the water sources that we will have in the future as climate change hits us even more and more. So that's a little bit about what we've been working on, what I've been working on. Generally, as I said, I got 17 bills to the governor's desk. He vetoed 2 of them. So we had 15 signed into law. One of the 2 he vetoed, we kind of knew he was going to veto. He's vetoed it before. It's a good government bill. It's a great bill. It's about oversight of our spending on programs in our county jails. So we send millions and millions of dollars a year to the counties on that is supposed to be spent making sure that our inmates don't recidivate, that they don't commit additional crimes when they are released. And we have no information of how that money is being spent, or if it is even being spent. And the auditor did an audit after we introduced this bill the first time, and it was vetoed, showing that many counties, including Alameda County, are not spending that money as we expect them to. So this bill would have required them to report back to the state, not only on how those dollars are being spent, but tracking the effectiveness of each of those programs so that we could replicate the ones that work and not do the ones that didn't work. But he vetoed it. So that we will have to continue to work on. And one of our biggest accomplishments that I know is really, really something that is near and dear to many people here was our Miles Hall Lifeline Act. We spent 2 years working on this legislation, and we had it signed into law in September. I have never felt so emotional or attached to a bill as I did AB 988, that bill. And part of that was because it was born out of my conversations with Miles's mother, Tawn. And as a mother, to sit with a mother who's lost her child, which, as everybody knows, is every parent's greatest nightmare, and be able to find a way forward with her to save the lives of other young men and women who were in mental health crisis was really a gift to be able to do that with her. And we got that bill to the finish line. It had a fee in it that will fund mental health crisis response in California to the tune of $200 million annually across the state of California in perpetuity. So even in downtimes, we will ensure that we are responding to those in mental health crisis with appropriate healthcare response, not a law enforcement response. That is game changing. It's game changing for those that are mentally ill and involved in officer involved shootings. 25% of all officer involved shootings are those in mental health crisis. So we just took that out of the equation by setting up a system by which we will have healthcare professionals who know how to de-escalate and interact with those who are in mental health crisis rather than law enforcement. But also for those that just need access to suicide and mental health crisis services, an access point in as easy as 988 is really going to be so critical to saving the lives of our young people. And we have more work to do there, but it's a really important step forward for California. And I'm just excited that it became law, because governor we were not sure what he was going to do, and he waited until the second to last day to sign that bill into law. And he did actually write a not very nice signature note that said that he didn't like a lot of what we did in the bill. But I will say that in a year when we had one of the largest budget surpluses in history, to be able to move a bill that would protect this funding in perpetuity was really an achievement. And we did it with massive bipartisan support, which is something I'm really, really proud of. So that's some of the work we did on mental health. It's really become a huge part of what we work on, because it's such an important part of what Californians need right now. We know the system is only as good as the number of providers we have. So we worked on bills that would ease the process for licensed professionals to become licensed, so we'd have more mental health providers in the system. And we continue to look at how we can build up the system. And I have to say, the work ahead of us now that we have this crisis response system that will provide on the ground mobile crisis response teams. The next step is our stabilization services, those first 24 hours when someone's in crisis, not in the emergency room, but in a real stabilization center where they can be treated by mental health professionals, is the next step. And then making sure that we have the long-term care people need. I was just on with actually the White House and federal HHS talking about the dollars we need to build the infrastructure for those stabilization centers. And I'm hopeful that they'll be our partners in building up that system. So reproductive rights, obviously, I started by talking about Prop 1. When I joined the legislature, one of the first things I did was form the Select Committee on Reproductive Health. Knowing as an attorney where this nation was going, I couldn't have predicted how fast it would happen that Roe would be overturned, but I knew that that was the path we were on. Nobody thought Trump would get 3 appointees at the time, but here we are. And so we were prepared when the Supreme Court took the case that we knew would result in the overturning of Roe v. Wade, and the leaked opinion, although how far it went was surprising, was actually not a shock to anybody in the legislature. The governor had formed the Future of Abortion Council a year ago to help guide us in our work to protect reproductive health access in California. And that the Future Abortion Council that I sat on, the President Pro Tem sat on, was mostly made up of the advocates, the providers, the on-the-ground people who are working with our abortion patients. And they really provided us with a blueprint of what we needed to build up California's infrastructure to face what a post-Roe world would look like. California anticipates a 3,000% increase in the number of patients as we get to currently, I think it's 15 or 16 states that have a total or extreme abortion ban, and we expect that to get to 26 states as these court cases work themselves out in each of the states. And with that, we expect the number of patients coming here to be incredibly overwhelming. And so we worked really hard to make sure we were building up a California that could truly be a reproductive health state for all. I carried 2 of the bills in that space focused on civil and criminal liability. So prior to the fall of Roe, we were seeing that they'd upheld the Texas law that would fine people, not only for providing abortion access, but for helping someone access abortion. And so one of the things we realized was that we have amazing people who may help someone get an abortion in a state like Texas, and we didn't want those people to be subject to fines here in California. And so working with the incredible legal minds at Berkeley Law and Stanford Law, we crafted a bill that says that our courts do not need to hear those cases at all. That if you were to bring a case based on an out-of-state abortion liability statute, that our courts can just turn the case away and you cannot go after anybody here. And so that bill soared through the legislature, really in huge part thanks to the legal experts who had crafted it so brilliantly and provided the backup to show why it was constitutional and sound. And in so doing, made sure that we didn't have to make any changes in the Senate, which meant it didn't have to come back to the Assembly for concurrence. And we were able to pass that bill the day before Roe fell out of the Senate that Thursday. The governor signed it the morning that the Supreme Court made the Dobbs decision. And we've been able to provide that protection every day since Roe fell, which is pretty incredible. So that was the first bill that I passed. We then turned our attention on criminal liability. New York had led with a bill that would stop those who were providing abortions from being extradited out of state on criminal charges. So although federal constitutional law says that anybody who flees here, so if you've committed a crime in another state and you flee to California, we have to extradite those individuals. If every act occurs in California, it's actually up to us whether we extradite an individual. And so we decided that for those actors who had committed the act of abortion, healthcare here in California, we would pass a law that said they would never be arrested or held on any abortion-related crimes, so that nobody, we know that we have a wonderful governor who would never actually approve an extradition, but the timeline of the extradition order coming in and a local law enforcement officer picking that person up and then getting it resolved would actually could potentially result in incarceration of our providers. And so we passed a law that says you can't even arrest them on those warrant requests. And in doing that work, we actually found a way to protect women outside of California, which when the press asked me, did you intend to protect women out of state? I said, yes, I'll protect as many women as I have the legal authority to protect. But what we did in that bill was we also protected information. So what we were seeing was, and this changed in the last month of session as we saw what was happening, we were starting to see criminal cases coming to fruition in other states where they were using the private communications of individuals that were seeking an abortion. So you may have seen in the news that Facebook was got a request for information in personal messenger about an abortion that someone had received. And so what we did was we worked into that law that any California-based company does not have to respond to a warrant here in California for any out-of-state, for any abortion crime that is not a crime here, which is none of them. And what that means is that Facebook, Apple, Google, some of the biggest and most powerful tech companies that hold your text messages will not have to hand over any of that information for abortion-related criminal proceedings. And that's pretty powerful because it means that the communication and the actions and everything can happen out of state, and we can protect the information and protect those people to have those private communications about their health care. So that was the first in the nation that happened, and we're actually working to see if we can get that bill passed in Delaware, where almost every single company is incorporated, so they could do it for every Delaware incorporated company, and also Washington, where many companies are headquartered as well. So working with legislators there to see if they want to follow our lead and protect people's privacy. So that's some of what I did in the abortion space, but the legislature in the 15 bill package did so much. We made sure that we increased the number of providers that will be providing access to abortion services. We made sure that we were providing accurate information to access abortion. One of the things we're really aware of is that there's a lot of misinformation, and we wanted good, accurate information. So the state now has a one-stop portal online where you can go to access information on how to access abortion here in California. So that's our best way to combat misinformation, is to provide good, accurate information from a reliable source. So that's a little bit of what we're doing here, what we did here in California. The work is far from over. We know that we have to continue to watch what is happening in other states and ensure that we are protecting everyone's right to access comprehensive reproductive health care, including abortion. And again, you have the ability to do that next on your ballot, so please vote. We also continued our work on gender discrimination by passing the pink tax. Congresswoman Spear, when she was in the legislature, passed a ban on charging women a different price on services. So used to be when you went to the dry cleaner, you could charge more for a woman's shirt than a man's shirt. That's considered service. And she made that practice unlawful. But we had not done the same for goods. And there was about $2 billion that was being made off charging women more for the same goods. So we passed a bill that was, I would say, a decade in the making. Former Senator Hannah Beth Jackson had carried it during her tenure. She left and I took the mantle this year, and we actually were able to get that bill signed into law. And so now women and men will be charged the same for the same goods. And it's really important because, as all of you probably know, women make less, right? There's a pay gap, there's a wage gap. So then to be charged more when you make less is really hurts women. And especially, lower income women who are trying to support a family. So we think that's great work. As many of you know, I came to the legislature focused on climate change. I'm an environmental lawyer from my early days of practice, and my kids' future as it relates to the climate is really important to me. So we continue to move environmental legislation in addition to my work as chair of the Water, Parks and Wildlife Committee. One of those bills was focused on conservation planning. Contra Costa actually is one of the best conservation planning efforts in the state. And it allows for counties or local entities to form a regional conservation plan that allows them to set aside land for conservation, set aside land for clean energy, and provide within it an ability when people build and they have an environmental impact, they have to mitigate that. And what these do is it actually allows for an organization that you can pay into that mitigates it. And those organizations are incredibly effective because they oversee the mitigation. They make sure that whatever the endangered species or animal or plant that you're trying to mitigate thrives and exists. So it's not just throwing money and walking away. It's actually investing in the environmental caretakers that we need. There were very few of those. So we expanded the ability to do that. We made it easier. We also funded the ability to do that. So said, we'll give you money to help you do this. And really that came out of my desire to see more conservation and clean energy happening side by side in the Tri-Valley. We've had a real tension between land conservation and clean energy development. And I think planning is really the solution to that. So I'm hoping that more entities can get into the space of ensuring that we can do both of those things side by side. We also, the other bill that was vetoed, one of my favorites was my Save the Bee bill. It would have banned the use of neonicotinoids, which is a very harmful pesticide for bees in home and residential use. So golf courses are covered in this pesticide. It's completely unnecessary. There are alternative pesticides that are just as effective, and it gets into the bee system and it lasts for generations. And it is the single leading cause of bee collapse, which is obviously really important for biodiversity. It's also really important for our food that we grow here in California. Currently, we're having to truck in bees because our bees are dying. And in Southern California, they did a test of wastewater and 89% of wastewater samples contained these pesticides. So it is in our suburban environments and we were going to get rid of it and the governor vetoed it. So we'll be back at it because it's really, really important and our bees need us. That's a little bit of what we did on the environmental side. We also moved a bill to continue our work on illegal dumping, which is really, really important as it relates to, both the respect and dignity our neighborhoods deserve when people are dumping appliances in the middle of them, but also it affects our waterways and our environment when people don't dump appropriately. So this will help our DAs be more effective in enforcing that. And it will also take the business licenses of those individuals who are doing it as in the course of their business. So you may hire a hauler you think is wonderful, has a business license, and is illegally dumping, and this will stop that practice. And I see, Richard, I see you unmuting. Did you have a question? Or did you not do that intentionally?
Oh, what happened? Did I do something?
Oh, you unmuted. I was like, oh, do you want to say something?
Oh, well, yeah, because I wanted to know if the governor gave any reason for vetoing the bee bill.
Yeah, so that he does always write a veto message. He said that it was the responsibility of the Department of Pesticide Regulation, DPR, to do the ban. That's true. I actually don't disagree with that. They have not done it. They have regulated the use of the pesticide in the agricultural space, and to be frank, done a fairly good job, which is why we were not touching agricultural uses, but he didn't touch residential. They have not touched residential use. So although it's true, it's their responsibility, they've failed to do their job. So we're hopeful that either they will do their job, and he's instructed them to in the veto message, or we'll be back at it. But that was his reason.
Yeah,
So
that's essentially.
The real reason was Big Ag was opposed.
That's what I thought.
So I continued to work on criminal justice reform as well. We did an incredible bill supporting juvenile justice reform that juveniles in the system are put on ankle monitors, sometimes more than adults, and there is no limit to the number. They don't get credits. So if an adult is put on an ankle monitor, it's considered a day in custody. And so you have a certain number of days in custody, and then you're off the ankle monitor. For youth, they get no credit. So they can be on the ankle monitor indefinitely. And so we changed that and made them in line with adults. So they will get custody credits, and there will be review by the court to make sure that that ankle monitor is appropriate and they can get back to life and hopefully rehabilitate, which is the goal of our juvenile justice system. So busy. We were really, really busy. That's a little bit of what we did. Incredibly, incredibly proud of the work that my team did this year in helping to move these incredible pieces of legislation that I truly believe will move California forward. And also, as many of you know, we're there to support our constituents every day that they needed them. I have the most incredible district staff, Marilyn Lucy, I think, oh, there she is, she's on, who's here in her personal capacity, but during the day works with me in the office, and the rest of the team have just done an incredible job supporting people as it relates to their unemployment insurance or franchise tax board or DMV or any way that they need our support in getting state services. So I do want to stop my spiel so I can answer questions, because you guys always have.
Rebecca, that's just been amazing. That's incredible what you've done.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Chris, could you lead us back to, yeah, so if you have any questions, could you raise your hand? Oh, we have one question from, is this Ellis or Sharon?
I know we can't tell whose hand it is. Sharon.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday,
Rebecca.
Happy birthday to you.
Oh, you're the cutest, Sharon. My birthday's tomorrow for everyone.
I
else.
know
Alright.
that.
Thanks, Sharon Ellis. So nobody, I mean, I can tell you what one of my biggest wins of the year was I got a bill signed by the governor that will hold PG&E accountable. I'll tell you about that.
Oh,
Really proud of it. Took 4 years, guys.
Excellent.
In that case, I have a question.
Yeah.
What's wrong with making all corporations pay their fines from money not derived from customers, as you did for PG&E?
No, I mean, trust me, it took me 4 years to get that done, Ellis. So we'll keep at it.
Okay, you got 4 years.
Right? These are not easy things to do, but yeah, so that bill made sure that when utilities, including PG&E, have to pay settlements for burning down our communities, that ratepayers are not paying, but instead the investors are paying. And that's really important accountability. And it got bipartisan support and is signed by the governor. And I am so proud of that, because gosh, they are a powerful interest in Sacramento, let me tell you.
that's not going to be retrospective per se, though, from the fires and everything. Or...
No, but trust, I mean, I hope it's the last one, but I kind of doubt it, Brody.
Yeah, yeah. We have a question from Stephanie. Go ahead. Stephanie.
Yeah, I have actually I have a couple, if it's okay. First, Assemblymember Bauer-Kahan, I just want to thank you for all your hard work. I just think you do an amazing job, and I feel very relieved living in your district. It gives me hope for the future. So I have a couple of different things. I think I'm going to start with the B one. So I feel confident that you're going to return to this, and how will you navigate in the future, being that the governor doesn't want to sign something like this? How will you get around that?
Well, we're going to start conversations with the department, which, by the way, we talked to the department a year ago before we introduced the bill, and they said, oh, this is great, go do it. And then at the last minute, we're like, no, we should do it, which I don't know why they changed their mind. So we will be going back to the department and saying to them, the governor said it's your job. Are you going to do it? So we will try that. And then if they don't do it, we will go back with the bill. And now it's easier, right? Because everyone's already voted for it. I mean, I had to fight for these votes, but now when you go back to someone, you're like, you voted for this before. Getting it through the legislature is much easier. And we did have to negotiate to get enough senators to vote for it. But so we will move it again if we have to. And then we will say it's been another year and they've done nothing. And we will hope that that changes the dynamic.
What's in
Okay,
the
and-
department so we can give
Permanent
them-
pesticide regulation, DPR.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And for whatever it's worth, I mean, seriously, I see dead bees all the time. Every day. It really is truly alarming. The next one that I want to go to is, can you speak, and I know it was not one that you were sponsoring, but could you speak at all on AB 1608? And that was the one that was, it was actually authored by Gibson and Weber to separate the duties of the coroner from the sheriff. And it just,
Yeah.
I did my best to follow it, and then it just died. And
I don't think he had the vote. It died in the Senate. I don't think he had the votes. And I think, I spoke on the floor in favor of it because Contra Costa, I think it's a real problem. And I've sat with our district attorney and had her explain it to me and understood the conflict of interest that we had there.
Yeah.
And so I think what, Assemblymember Gibson was trying to do was clearly the right thing. And I think the sheriffs opposed it because they didn't want to lose those duties and that revenue, and they won. And I think it's wrong, but yeah, so he didn't have the votes in the Senate.
So will this be taken up again, do you think? I mean,
It was one of Assemblymember Gibson is my seatmate, so we sit next to each other. And I love him so much, and he is dogged in his fight for justice, especially as it relates to gun violence and officer-involved shootings. He's actually had children that are the victims of gun violence, and it really drives him every single day. And so I do believe that he will stay at it. He's not a man who gives up easily. That's for sure.
okay, okay. And then my last question is, and I know this is kind of a little outside, but how, with your legal background, how likely do you think down the road it is if the both houses in the government, federal government, are controlled by Republicans? I mean, what do you think is the likelihood ever of like them putting something in that banned abortion for the whole country, that overrode all states?
Well, I will have a much better answer in how many days till the election? 10 days, 11 days, 12 days. I think, look, what happened in Kansas was unprecedented, you guys. Over 60% of people showed up to say, we want the right to abortion. And those were not all Democrats. Let me tell you, those were independents, those are Republicans, those were first-time voters. And if you look at the registration numbers since June, they heavily show that it is women and men of color who are going out to register to vote for the first time. So I am optimistic that we will see in the election in a few days an army of angry women. They just ripped our rights away, and they're going to be angry and they're going to vote. And if that happens, then I think it's unlikely, because I think that we are finally realizing that this right was at stake after it was taken away, and we're going to take back our power. And if so, I think the Republicans will have to, if they want to continue to have any power, they will have to come aboard and believe. I mean, the percentage of Americans that believe in abortion rights of every party is incredible, right? I mean, this is not a partisan issue. It's an extremist issue. So if the election goes that way, I think it's unlikely. If it does not, if we do not get out and vote across the country, if people, as some people are saying, vote more on, their pocketbooks than they do their fundamental rights, then I think it is very, very likely, if they win the White House in 2 years and hold both houses, that there will be a federal abortion ban.
Rebecca, I wanted to ask you, I heard your debate with Joe Rube, and they asked you about the water crisis and what you're going to do. Can you just give us a slight overview? Because there's some interesting things that I learned.
Yeah, sure. So it's funny, I did, Rossmore actually had a town hall on water on Friday, and I had the opportunity to speak, and somebody who I had met on the campaign trail years ago was like, you know a lot about water now. I said, well, when you chair the committee, you learn a thing or two. I have learned a lot in the last year about water. And so I don't want you all to lose sleep tonight, but the reality is that we are in real trouble in California because the way that rain happens, the way our precipitation is changing rapidly because of climate change. So Lawrence Berkeley Lab predicts that in 25 years, we will have no more snow. There will be no more snow in the Sierras. And we depend right now for our water capture and all the ways that water moves in California for there to be snow and it to melt at a certain rate. Now, the reason, and many people were surprised there was a drought knowing how much snow was going on in Tahoe last winter. Well, part of the reason is the snow is melting faster. And so we're not capturing as much of it. When it melts slower, more of it goes into our rivers and we capture more of it. When it melts as quickly as it does, it's going into the ground mostly. And so that, in addition to what you all learned last year, maybe for the first time, atmospheric rivers. So things are changing and we're going to see less snow and less, like when I grew up, it rained kind of all winter, but not that much, but it was pretty constant, right? That's what we remember from, 30 years ago. Now what we expect is dry and then giant atmospheric rivers, right? So a lot of rain in a short period of time, which is also not how California was built to capture and maintain water. So we need to change the way our infrastructure is built for the way we are going to have precipitation in the future. That's a really important piece of what we need to work on. The second thing is that we need to also be real about what it means to build the infrastructure that other countries have. To be clear, I'm not actually worried about the amount of water we have, because we will, based on all predictions, have more water than Israel and Australia, both of which do a good job because they use desalination and they use water recycling. And we don't do enough of that. And so we are investing heavily in water recycling. Met is going to do a huge project that will recycle 100% of their water for Los Angeles. That's incredible. And when I say water recycling, historically, that's all been used for irrigation of outdoor plantings. Water recycling, as it stands today, is actually drinking water. So that will be water that you can drink, you can bathe in, is drinking water, quality water. So that's really exciting. We're also heavily looking at desalination as it relates to brackish water. So that's the salt water that's in the Delta, which is different in quality than ocean water and uses less energy to desalinate than ocean water, and also groundwater. We're seeing more saltwater intrusion into our groundwater, so we have to desalinate that. We also need to keep our groundwater clean, right? In Pleasanton, as some of you may know, we've had to shut down 2 of our major water sources, our wells, for PFAS contamination. That's a really big deal when we don't have ability to use our groundwater, especially when I talk about these heavy rains that will result in decent groundwater. So there's a lot of things we need to work on, but we need to be doing all of it because our water future needs to look different. And when we talk to other nations and we learn about what they're doing it better than us, and they're in a good place. Israel is the only country in the world that has more trees than they did 10 years ago, and they're in a desert. So they're doing something right, and we need to follow their lead.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. Wow, that's fascinating. I mean,
Yeah.
really, wow, what interesting information about water. But Rebecca, we're so happy to have you come speak. Thank you so much. We're very proud of you. And thank you for all that you do.
Well, thank you. And I am so excited that I'm followed by the incredible Sabina Zafar. I know you will enjoy her just as much, if not more. What an incredible, lucky we are to have these awesome local leaders. So thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca, for being here. And Rick, I know we had talked about maybe you would say something, but since we have Sabina here, let's go
Okay.
to Sabina, but let me introduce you first, Sabina, okay?
Sure.
Get some of my notes here. So Sabina Zafar is one of our endorsed candidates. When she ran 4 years ago, and she won, has been successfully serving on the San Ramon City Council, and now she's running for mayor of San Ramon, and our club voted to endorse her for mayor. Sabina's intelligent. She's working as a tech person for Oracle. She's perceptive about potential problems in San Ramon and how to solve those problems. And with her ability to communicate and get along with people and promote discussion and consensus, she's been a successful council member. And we're happy to have her here tonight to talk about the issues that San Ramon needs to solve. And maybe she'll talk about her campaign for mayor. So thank you, Sabina, for agreeing to come tonight and speak to us.
Thank you so much for inviting. And Rebecca said that, but it's a hard act to follow. She's amazing. She's done so much for our community. And I was at a couple of events with Rebecca the last couple of weeks here in San Ramon, where she gave a legislative update to our residents. Then she came to our city council meeting. And then I was also at the event where she invited the Girl Scouts, which is really heartwarming because those are the kind of things that build community, that bring people together as well. And I really appreciate Rebecca, constantly reaching out and doing this community-centric events. So thank you so much. And Marilyn is just as amazing in, getting us all together and pulling this together. So I do want to say thank you to Rebecca and her office. And everybody on this call, thank you so much. I've appreciated, we've been on this journey together for, now 4-6 years. As I've been running for council, as I've gotten involved, part of it is I've grown up with all of you. We've learned things together, and I've appreciated your confidence and support in my campaign, and coming, not only contributing, but so many members of this club coming and walking, sometimes in 90-degree heat, and sometimes rainy weather. So thank you so much. I want to really start off with that. I was just at an event at City Hall, and San Ramon's changed so much in the last 4 years, honestly. I was at an event where we were doing a vigil for Domestic Violence Month and celebrating that. I ended up reading a poem because I've been going to that for the last 4 years now. And, it's really, truly a gathering of people that express themselves. We started lighting up City Hall last couple of years to show solidarity with the domestic violence victims. And I was so touched and happy to see our new chief of police come up there and speak as well. So all of that shows that, as a community, as a city, we're embracing more these community-centric events, getting together, doing some of these things together, and accepting the fact, right, that residents come and speak. We were, and PFLAG was part of it. And those are significant wins in the last 4 years that have happened in San Ramon, where we first raised the pride flag in 2018 after I got elected. We now recognize Gun Violence Month. We recognize domestic violence. And part of it is the community felt they had somebody that they could reach out to, connect with, and help them navigate how to reach out to council. I don't want to say maybe the council before me wasn't open to it, but I don't think anybody in the community kind of felt that connection. So I, pride myself in just being available and connected with the community where they will reach out to me. And whether it was Muslim Appreciation Month or Hindu Appreciation Month, right? They all reach out to me and say, can you help us navigate and how do we do this? So I just feel very fortunate that I have that connection with the community. San Ramon, has again, even in the last 16 years that I've lived there, has grown, and we continue to grow as a community. We continue to be more diverse. San Ramon in the last census is now 51% Asian. And Asian is a big, large number, because if you look at, people who come from Asian heritage, that's 4.6 billion population of the world. And, for San Ramon to have that very diverse Asian population from all areas of, Asia, South Asia, East Asia, we are truly a melting pot, but we are a very accepting community. And you will see that with the celebrations we do now. Our community in the culture has become a very big event where different cultures showcase their cultures. They have their stalls, they have their dances, and we continue to celebrate, everybody's diversity and welcome everyone. So I just think San Ramon is, continues to become a very accepting place where people love to live here. What's happening in San Ramon, obviously, all of you have probably heard of the marketplace issue, whether we want to call it an issue or we want, but that's something which is top of mind for most residents in San Ramon that especially live around the marketplace. Things are changing. We have to plan for housing. The thing that we focused on the most in these last 6 months has been, we have a regional housing number that we need to meet, which is 5,111. I know that number exactly for the next 8 years, the RENA cycle 23 to 30. Water does come up as an issue, other things come up as an issue, but we have to plan for it as a city. Whether we'll be able to build that or not, that's up to the developers. And the way we're planning that is making sure that people who live in San Ramon, who enjoy our community, can continue to enjoy the quality of life, the hills, the open spaces we have, and build more in the core or the downtown of San Ramon. I know maybe last year or year before, I probably showed, where some of this housing development was being planned. We are very much in the thick of our housing plan. We actually submitted our plan to HDC. 21 cities had submitted. Only the city, and we found out this last night or Tuesday night during our council meeting. Only one city's plans were accepted. All the other 20 cities failed because they did not meet the requirements that HDC has set for cities to plan for housing, the future of housing. City Center has opened up. That's, continuing to do well for San Ramon. We have stores there. It's truly becoming a gathering space. For me now, and a focus of my campaign has been, how do we make sure that some of the other shopping centers that are now aging out, that are not doing that well, we're losing businesses there. How do we make sure that we reinvest in those and create them as truly gathering spaces in San Ramon? We also see that our budget our population has doubled, but the budget is not keeping up with that. So how do we make sure that we attract more businesses to San Ramon? We know people have money to spend in San Ramon. We're seeing a revenue leakage where people are taking money outside of San Ramon, spending it in neighboring cities. We want to close that gap, but we want to close that gap by providing stores and shops. And like I said, I love the word gathering spaces, because truly when people like to get together at a place is when businesses thrive as well. So making it more welcoming for small businesses and technology companies as well. And everybody noticed during the pandemic, the way we work has changed. Chevron has downsized significantly. They've sold their business park. And again, that's another opportunity zone for us to really plan that well. As much as we need housing and we're planning for that, we need to have a balance of housing and retail and businesses in San Ramon. Otherwise, we won't create a community. Walkability, bikeability is a big one. We are the first city actually, which is going to test out the county plan of what they call mobility as a service. And so we will have shared bird bikes and scooters rolling out in San Ramon very soon, which will be exciting. It's a year-long plan where they will test out, see how they're doing in the community. I think it'll also be a good test of our bike lanes and how we utilize them and how we roll out that bike plan that we have as a master bike plan that we have in San Ramon. Crow Canyon is being upgraded, and that's so a lot of people have asked me questions about what's going on, why are you expanding Crow Canyon, what's going on? And that was approved about 4 years ago. Construction just started and it'll end next fall. So Crow Canyon widening was part of the larger Doherty Valley plan. When they built out Doherty Valley, Bollinger was created, and Crow Canyon had to match the population growth. And so those funds were only allocated for Crow Canyon. And so that's the money which the Crow Canyon allocated funds out of that Doherty Valley settlement agreement is what's being invested in widening Crow Canyon. As part of that, we will also have the highest level of bike lanes possible, because once we're doing this whole upgrade of the roads, we want to make sure it's also safe for pedestrians and bikers. I'm trying to think, what are some of the other things happening? Our city manager is retiring. That's going to be a big decision for the new city council. You probably noticed in the Tri-Valley, most of the city managers are slowly retiring. Ours is retiring too now. So the new council will have a big decision to hire a city manager who will actually be forward-thinking and hopefully be able to plan for this changing community, growing community. We are a very young population still. Our average age in San Ramon has gone up from 38 to 39 now. So average age is still young. And then, but we also have one of the fastest fastest growing senior population in San Ramon. And our senior centers are thriving. We've built a gym there now, which is our first kind of adult focused gym. We primarily had parks that were focused on kids, but now we're starting to think more about how do we create more inclusive parks and spaces that not only just serve the children, but also different age groups. And I think that's a lot of information. I probably have so much more I can talk about, but I would love some questions and anything that's on anyone's mind and anything I can share.
Thank you, Sabina. Do we have any questions? Let me go to my gallery view. If not, I could ask you about, you mentioned HDC and you submitted a plan, but only one was accepted. Is that for the housing? What is HDC
The
stand for?
housing development, I think
Is it a commission or something?
commission, yeah, something like that. So
What did they,
um,
yes, you do.
yeah, the interesting statistics are that 60 cities haven't submitted their plan, and the deadline is actually January 31st. But you have to submit them 60 days before that deadline. 21 cities had submitted their plans, so they have to meet certain criteria. They have to get priority to certain, making sure that you have the community input. Looks like ours might get approved. The implications of, not getting your plan approved by the housing authority, which is the state authority, is that you may lose funding for certain projects and things which the state provides the city. You may even, some cities have, so city of Alameda was approved. And that was the only one. The rest of the cities, there were some, they have to go and fix whatever they were doing. You could lose funding, you could even lose, some cities have lost their authority to issue plan, what are those? What am I? I'm just blanking on the name right now. Basically your permits. So, for example, this is when Pleasanton refused to comply with some of these requirements a few years back, they lost their permitting rights. And then, if you see all that housing along 680, basically that was allowed by right. So there's a lot of by right allowances now that developers will have. As SB 330, we've talked about that limits the city's power on what housing they can and how much restrictions they can put in place. And some of, more and more of these are tying the city's hands. San Ramon's generally been good about making sure we're building our, we have our requirements, we plan properly, but a lot of cities, especially in Southern California, have been such bad actors, if you will, that it's, these laws are now coming in where local control is being taken away more and more away from the city. So the only tool you have is good planning and where you want to see this, because if you don't plan well, then the state will come over, or the county, and override and let developers build wherever. So this is probably one of the most complicated issues, right? Housing and planning for the right housing that fits in your community, and making sure it gets approved as well. I know Rick has taken, and I think I saw Sarah as well. They've taken the planning academy, right? So you guys got to learn some of the planning things. Rick, anything you want to add to it?
I think San Ramon offers a lot of really good informative courses for the citizens of San Ramon. And if you want to really learn about the city, there's also the police academy. We have various ways to learn. And I think once you start learning, you may want to get more involved in your city. So I think that's a great idea. I'm not sure if Bill Clarkson started that, but it's a great, some of these courses go on for a while, but it's well worth
Yeah, they've been, I mean, we've had them for a long time, and the city's always supported that. I think the Planning Academy might have been Bill's idea because, to help people understand what city planning looks like.
We have a question from Sharon and Ellis.
Hi, Sabina. It's
Hello.
me. As we know, Prop 13 says that you can't raise taxes until the property is sold. And Chevron, I think you said, has sold their property over on Bollinger. In addition to that, there's a lot of new buildings in Bishop Branch, like where Rebecca's office used to be, and it's torn down. Will that mean a considerable increase in revenue for the city, because those are new properties, and Chevron would be a new owner? Have they wiggled out of that, or are they going to really pay the higher taxes?
Yeah, so it's going to, right? If they build housing there, right? Those are brand new homes, brand new people moving. So you'll get property taxes, revenue from there. So yes, essentially any new buildings, even though Sunset has bought it back, the whatever gets built there now will be, it won't be the 40, tax that you had 40 years ago. So it'll be brand new.
So that Bishop Branch property is going to be mixed use for residential and business, or what's it earmarked for?
Yeah, so staff had actually put it in front of us as mixed use, but the rest of the council did not agree that we should approve anything on it yet till it sells. So now that it's sold, and Sunset has bought it back, we suspect that they are going to bring a very mixed use plan to us. We're hoping it's also an opportunity site for San Ramon to really be able to build something there, which could be, and I have some ideas, but obviously, those ideas I will talk to Sunset and say, what can we bring for residents? We haven't had such a big property come online for us to utilize for whether it's a sports center or, an arena or something like that. So yeah, everybody's watching, trying to see, how that property it's right next to the interstate. So it could really serve us well if we plan it well. So yeah, but we haven't, I think it'll take a couple of years to decide what's going to be on there.
Thank you.
Nancy Harder.
Hi, Sabina. Thank you for your service. Myself and Sarah, we just finished that planning academy, and it was just so, oh my gosh, very, very educational. I highly recommend anyone that's interested in learning more about the planning of San Ramon to attend that class. It was great. My question to you is, so I know there's so much development going on, and I the same as Rebecca, I have such a concern about the water. And how are we going to address that need when we start adding all of these new residents? I understand that mandate for the 5,100 new development is coming from the state.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought that the City Walk, the new City Walk development, wouldn't that meet that 5,100 requirement? Or are we still need to build out?
So it will be it is part of the package that we're giving and saying, depending on when they build out, right? So we have to plan for it. It may necessarily not be built. We don't know, right? There's actually 600 units that were approved about 10 years ago as part of the city center plan that still hasn't been built. So some cities will actually build housing. San Ramon does not build housing. We plan for it. So we just have to make sure that we plan and, say if somebody wants to build, this is a mixed use and this is a high density mixed use with, more emphasis on retail, less emphasis on housing, or, more of so part of that will be counted in, what we've done with the City Walk plan into the RENA numbers we have to meet. That City Walk plan also has timelines. They won't all be built at the same time because they're spread over 27 years. So whatever they've kind of put in this 8-year timeline, we can count for those units and say, okay, in these, 8-year RHNA cycle, we can count these units from the city walk.
Because I've seen a lot of plans for the city walk. but
Yeah,
It seems like there's so many other developments that are coming up in addition to City Walk, like the one coming up in Marketplace and, the one that's on San Ramon Valley Boulevard. They seem to be popping up all over the place. And I thought, well, how come City Walk is not meeting the state's mandate? I thought we were covered with that.
Yeah.
We need, in addition to City Walk, we need more housing.
yeah. So again, the city walk plan is 27 years. The planning we need to do is 8 years. And we are probably counting like 1/3 of the city walk units into this RHNA cycle. If we, it might be that after that, we just don't get any numbers. Again, this happens. The last RHNA cycle, our requirement was only 1,400. So we didn't really have to plan for that much housing. The goal is, the idea is everybody agrees that we plan as much in the core and that whole city walk, if you will, that area between Crow Canyon and Bollinger Canyon, or around that strip, if you will, along Camino Ramon, and not go to the outskirts or any of the hills. So far, that's kind of how we're planning and trying to keep units there.
Well, thank you. We love our hills.
I
We
know,
love the
and that's what
ridgeline.
we want to protect. And that's why we're like, if we plan this, we can protect this. If we don't plan and submit something that's approved, then people can have a heyday, honestly.
Yeah, we don't want to be there. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, this is fascinating about housing. I mean, when you say high density, does that mean apartments or does that mean?
That means
duplexes
apartments,
or-
that means more closer together. And the way we want to meet some of these is also by building smaller units, because the whole idea is creating affordable by design as well. And I mean, I give my example that, somebody like myself, who's now an empty nester, I don't have anywhere to move in San Ramon, and I'm still living in a big house. So if I can open it up for a family and move into something which is more of, speaks to more seniors that, may not want to live in large houses in the outskirts of the city and want to live in something which is more walkable, more dense, because you have more neighbors around. So it'll be a combination of apartments and condos. We still didn't think the Summerhill homes that are being built have totally met that requirement, because they are between 1,800 and 2,400, 400 homes. So, they're not small by any means. And, the price of any of this housing is based on, what's the square footage pricing. And right now it's in San Ramon, it's anywhere from 700 to 1,000 per square foot. So they'll still be expensive. But we're hoping, we'll have some rental units and mix it all in. I've had a lot more seniors reach out to me and ask me when the city walk will be built, because they do want to live in something which is, more of a community walkable, where they can, kind of walk around and don't have to maintain their yards. And so again, as we're building this new construction, it's going to be less of the large parks, less of, things that are consuming water. In San Ramon, all of our parks and our space, basically our medians there, water, we use recycled water for all of those. People have asked, why can't we do that for our lawns? And I guess there's no availability of recycled water to that extent now. So as we extend, and create more reusable water, we should be able to make it more commercially available. But right now the city is able to, because it's a city, is able to water our lawns and our medians with recycled water.
Okay. Yeah, you have the special pipes and everything. Yeah,
Yeah, the purple pipes.
yeah. Do we have any other questions for Sabina? Sabina, we've enjoyed having you come tonight. We haven't talked to you in a long time. And we're so happy that you're going to be running for mayor. How's that coming?
Thank you so much. So this is what my day was. I worked and then logged off and then gave an interview to a Cal High kid who's doing a thing on the mayoral election. Then I walked, canvassed some neighborhoods. And then I ran into a friend of mine and he said, I live in the court. I'm like, so here you go. Why don't you canvass the rest of the court? So it's been going well. People have voted. Some people have said, oh, we've already voted. And then they see my face and they're like, well, we voted for you. So that's been exciting. Positive feedback on the doors. I've done this enough time where, yeah, it's amazing how many people have the name recognition, know me, or have invited me in to have coffee with them or dinner with their family. It's almost, heartwarming and funny at the same time. And then we had this vigil. So I'm wearing all three hats as I'm doing this. I get to spend this time with you guys, and then my parents are here visiting. So,
Oh.
I'm really happy that they're able to see my crazy life. As
Where are they visiting from?
Pakistan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And my dad was very much involved in politics. He was a federal minister in the 90s for Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto's cabinet. So I've grown up watching him, and he's my biggest fan. So you'll see him like every post, everything I put out there. He takes pictures all the time. So I'm enjoying them being here and spending some time with them.
That's wonderful. I was telling other people before you came on that I got out and I walked 2 hours for your campaign. It was great because I could hand out your literature. And then I was Marisol Rubio's, another district in San Ramon, and Anayate Latona, the Contra Costa County Board of Education, and the DPCC door hanger. 4 things for each house. And it's great. Everyone, it's wonderful to go walking. So I hope people will get involved, and we're so happy you're running again, and you're running for mayor. Wow.
Yeah. And San Ramon's become very democratic, right? When Eric came 2 years ago, he's like, this is not the San Ramon I remember running in. So, for us to have pretty much a candidate for every, and endorsed by the club as well, at every level, it's huge in San Ramon, right? When I ran in 2016 was the first time when I ran, it wasn't like that at all. So we've significantly changed as a community. I think Trump really helped us with the cause. There are people who've told me, we were non-party preference and we clearly changed it to Democratic. Now I see that women's rights that are being impacted, and doesn't matter, whether you're a Democratic woman or Republican woman or no party preference, you don't want your rights taken away. You don't want decisions being made for your body, and that's going to bring more women out. And I've heard that at the doors, right? They said we need change, and we need women to lead the way. So you
Well,
saw
I've dropped in chat about how your link to where people can get involved. And do you have phone banking and texting too?
Yes, we're doing phone banking right now, and I've pretty much run out of my own literature, but that doesn't mean I don't have a DPCCC lit, which endorses me. So, you can also walk for all, and kind of drop cards at our the DPCCC households. The Democratic households. Sorry, it's getting late.
Yeah,
So,
Chris, I have dropped the link in there because they can't click on here to go to the link. So can you take it back to the chat? Thank you. Anyway, Sabina, I'll let you get back so you can enjoy your parents. That's wonderful that they're visiting. How
thank
wonderful.
you.
So
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I appreciate. I just so appreciate all of you for always being there for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So anyway, do we have, is anyone interested in our in the propositions that our club has endorsed. Is anyone interested in knowing that, or does everyone want to, is everyone ready for the evening to the end? No questions about the propositions?
Do you have that posted anywhere? Is it in your emails, I think?
We have our endorsements are on 3 propositions so far. It's on our website, SRV. Okay, let me put it in here, srvdems.org. And I think you can go to endorsements for 2022, and you can see what our endorsements of people and the endorsements of the propositions. So we have endorsed, of course, Proposition 1, the right to reproductive freedom amendment to the state constitution. Proposition 28, art and music K-12 education funding initiative. Because as you know, our schools just don't have enough money to fund all that. So they need extra funding. And then Proposition 31 for flavored tobacco products banned referendum. So there's already a ban on flavored tobacco products, and this will just keep that. Okay, and then just tonight at 6:30, we voted to endorse a no vote on Proposition 29. Proposition 29 would require physicians at dialysis clinics. And as we explained that if to have a physician there for sometimes like 12 hours a day is very expensive. And a lot of the dialysis clinics would just go out of business. And then all those people that live in rural or poor areas, they have to drive really far to find another dialysis clinic. And sometimes they have to go 3 times, a week. And when this came up before, we had a speaker on this, a nephrologist, who spoke and said, we don't need a physician at each one of these clinics. So that's our no vote on, it's a vote to endorse the no on Proposition 29. And then also I'm suggesting as myself a vote on no on Prop 30. I don't know if a lot of you know, but let's see if I can find my notes here. It sounds marvelous at first because it taxes extreme millionaires, and it would give regular people money to help them purchase an electric vehicle, and it gives money to fight fires. But this tax would continue for 20 years. And then our tax dollars would only be funding that for 20 years. And California needs money for all sorts of other things, such as education. And as Governor Newsom pointed out, it would have been better if all that money would go into the general fund to help, which would then help fund education. He also rightly pointed out that it would be better for those things to be done by the legislature, because as a ballot measure, it could never be changed. It would be there for 20 years. And as he said, California is already investing millions to help people purchase EV vehicles. And I will put this link in chat that will show you the information, a website you can go to see that California is already supporting a lot of these things already. So that's why I would suggest, and this is me, not our club, of a no vote on Proposition 30. And does anyone have any other ideas about the propositions or?
Brody, Stephanie and I are definitely voting against Proposition 27 for online sports betting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I believe that on our website we're we probably, yes, we also are voted no on Prop 26
Okay.
and 27.
And yeah, we're voting no on 26 as well.
Yes. We don't need gambling.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and it hurts.
There's a tricky part about 26. It allows for private lawsuits.
Right.
And propositions shouldn't be dictating things like that. That should be left to the legislature. So
they would be doing the lawsuits against the little card rooms.
Exactly.
And the little card rooms have betting, but then that money that's taxed goes to their small little rural cities, and then those cities would have no tax revenue. And so that's why a no on 26 is also important. And that's, you know, unfortunately, our CalDem did not, our California Democratic Party didn't make a decision on that. But yeah, I think our club voted no on 26 and 27.
All right.
Okay, and then, oh, Rick, would you like to give your talk about what they can do to get active and keeping the House and the Senate blue? We can't, you're muted.
I was coughing earlier. Yeah, there's opportunities to keep the House and the Senate blue, which is critical. We always seem to be in a crisis of getting, you know, taken over by the wrong party. But and those opportunities are Saturdays and Sundays, Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And you've heard Cecilia Minalga, how great a job she's done with our Central Valley voters. And so we're reaching out to the Central Valley as part of our long-term strategy to help maintain the House, which is crucial. And as far as the Senate is concerned, Arizona and Nevada are two of the most important elections. I've been getting a lot of information from Mark Kelly, especially. And that will determine really which party is going to, you know, be have control of the Senate after November. So volunteers like this club can you know, talk to the voters about Senator Kelly in Arizona and also Senator Catherine Cortez Masto in Nevada. So if everybody does a little bit, I think it can make a big difference.
And I dropped the Mobilize link that has all those phone banking opportunities.
Right.
Chat. So we've got a lot to do. There's lots of ways to get involved. It's amazing.
Yeah, I got to push. Last couple.
Has anyone done any phone banking already?
Yeah, I have, Brody.
For what?
Well, actually, I was with 350.org, but we were doing some Central Valley stuff with Will Rollins and then some out of state with Cortez Masto and then Pennsylvania. And so I had to miss a couple times because I was so busy there, but yeah, I'm gonna probably go back this week.
You're wonderful, Shirley. We should all be like Shirley, and we should all be doing that. Yes. And Will Rollins, I think there was a bus last week that went down there, a busload of people from our area went down to help Will Rollins. He's like in Orange County, a little bit of Palm Desert, but yeah, that's really a critical race. Yes. I've done phone phone banking for Michelle Peterson, and that worked really, really well. They have it's very nice that you have a form that you can look at with all the what you're supposed to say, and then if it's like answering machine, then you click a link and it takes you to the answering machine, what paragraph that you say. And you know, you can go through a lot of people in about like an hour and a half. It was great. I've done that a couple of times. So that's another way you can get involved. There's so many ways. So
yeah, I've done a lot of walking.
I know, Richard.
For Sabina, I mean, now the weather's cool, but man, it was hot. Really.
How many hours have you gone?
Huh?
How many hours have you?
Oh God, lots of all. I mean, I got this bigger precinct than I thought I was going to get. So it took me longer to do it. But as long as there's literature left, you know, you want to make sure you use it up. Matter of fact, I had this event for Marisol, and we had Betty Yee come on Sunday, and we love Betty Yee. And she gave a great introduction to Marisol, and Chuck Carpenter was there with some more literature, I guess, that was left over from, you know, the DPCCC. So I've got to get another, I got to talk to Kathleen and get another precinct to see, you know, I want to make sure everything's been covered. You know, you just don't want to miss something that is crucial.
Yes, we have an admin for DPCC, Kathleen, And you can call her up and tell her what your precinct is where you live. And she can give you those the little PDI
Right.
for your area. So it's
Right.
very easy to get involved. You don't have to drive real far away. You can actually just do your own neighborhood. Yeah. And Richard's been doing it for what, 5 days or 6 days you were out?
Well, I started even before the PDI. So,
How many days? How many days, Richard?
I don't know, 10 days.
Oh my gosh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, I was working in my area, and then Kathleen gave me a different precinct. It was kind of like, oh, I want to do, I want to do my own area, but I did another area. The problem is when you do it on your own, you got to tell the candidates that you've done it because it's not marked on the PDI, so. Anyway,
You aren't using PDI when you do it?
well, initially we didn't, I started early for
Oh,
before we even had it. So,
oh my goodness.
so I had to tell them what streets I'd done, just so they knew I'd covered it.
PDI is, you use your cell phone and you load this app called PDI. And then it will give you, like if you have a certain precinct, it will show the streets. Okay, and then you go you hit the street and it will show you the street numbers of where you should drop the literature, because they're only Democratic voters. So it's, we know that they'll be interested in what we have to say in our flyers. And so it's very easy to use. And then once you've dropped the literature, you just click it, that you've dropped it, and then it has a little check mark. Okay, you're done.
It shows you the map too. It shows you what area
you need the map. Yes.
you feel pretty good. Like you've done this whole area.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's
So-
very easy to use.
Yeah.
It's very worthwhile.
Ellis and I did some sign waving for a candidate in our club, and he picked like a main street during like rush hour, and we're holding up signs, and he's got a big sign, I am so and so running for this, and people were honking and he's waving. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, that's neat. Who was that for? Evan Branning? No,
Jeff Niebuhr, he's running for city council in Pleasanton.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was fun.
Yeah, it does sound like fun. We could organize that. Make banners.
It just feels good on election night to know you've done your part,
That's true. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Hmm.
Well, anyway, if you have any ideas of who you would like to see as speakers for next year, we do not have meetings in November and December. Wonder why?
Oh, wow.
Fourth Thursday of the month is usually, Thanksgiving or Christmas. So we will not be meeting in November and December, but we'll be meeting in January. And if you have any ideas of who you would like to see as a speaker, please let me know. Do people really like to have, I really like to have it when we have our professors from UC Berkeley come speak, and we haven't had those in a while. So if you want to get involved and help me, you can pick a professor, you can. And you know how I do it? I go to the University of California, Berkeley website, and then I go to the public policy department and I go and look at the speakers. I mean, at their professors to see who would be interesting speaker. So you can help me do that. It's fun. And then you contact them and see if they're open, and yeah. So if you want to get involved, we need people to get involved. And one thing we really need for our club is we need a legislative person to follow all this legislation. And as Rebecca was saying, all that legislation, we could have been actively helping her, get people approved of that legislation. And so if anyone's interested in doing that, let me know. I put my email in chat. Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you next year, if not before. Some of you I'll see before. So
Thanks for
thank
getting
you.
the great speakers.
Yeah,
Great
thank
meeting.
you.
Good work.
Thanks,
Brody.
Brody.
You.
Thank you, Brody.
Thank
Thank you so much.
Brody. All
You.
right.
Happy Halloween.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Beverly, Nancy, or Nancy, are you there?